What up? Experience by Cartier, and today we're going to be going over a sponge temp fade, okay? So first off, we're going to comb the hair, or in this case, we're going to pick the hair so that we can lift the hair off of the scalp. He is trying to grow his hair out or whatnot, so we're just going to be fading the side, the little temp area, the temple area, and then the back of the neck, all right? So those are the only parts that we're going to focus on today. He's also getting his beard cleaned up and lined up as well. So in this process of us combing the hair, it actually lifts the hair off of the scalp so that you can see what you're working with. And then it also gives you the opportunity to visualize the finished product. And it also helps to be aware of any deformities in the head or in the scalp or anything like that. So remember, anytime that you're cutting or preparing to cut, the first thing that you want to do is to comb the hair before you do anything. This part is important. This also helps you to lift the hair off the scalp so that you can make it easier for yourself to cut with the clippers. All right, so after I'm done combing, I'm going to start my first guideline. With this particular client, I know how his hair actually, reacts to the clippers or trimmers or whatever. I know what I can and can't do with this particular individual. So I found that with his hair, I can actually start my first guideline with the trimmer and it not being difficult to get the line out. If you're a beginner, what you want to do is use your clipper with the lever closed to start that guideline. And then here on this particular part, I have the clipper all the way open and I'm creating another guideline in this particular area. Now in the nape area, it's more common for people's hair to grow in different directions. And when you're fading, you actually have to go against the grain. So you have to be mindful of that for that good transition. So what you want to do is pay attention to how the hair is growing out of the scalp and going against that. So whenever I made my second guideline, I'm going to go down notch by notch until the area seems to be as faded as possible. And the reason why I do it notch by notch is because it is easier for me so that I know where I am in the fade. And the more that I close the notch, I move closer to the line that I first created. And with this particular process, you want to take your time. Don't rush yourself, just take your time. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to rush your process. So now I have my one guard with the lever closed and I'm going to create my next guideline. Now whenever I create this next guideline, there's going to be this faint line that you will see, that you will be able to get out with the half guard. So I'm going over this area multiple times, making sure that I'm cutting the hair that needs to be cut so that I can give that effect that the hair is faded. And when I get done with that, I'm going to take my half guard and there's a faint line that I actually see. I'm going to go ahead and knock that faint line out as best that I can. Sometimes you won't see lines until you actually do a lineup sometimes, or sometimes you may need to rest your eyes in a particular area and you need to look at something else and then come back to the fade. So I try to knock out as much as I can so that whenever it is done and I actually do the lineup, I can come back and clean it up when I'm done. So sometimes I will take the guard off and use some areas and clean up in, but I won't use the whole blade. I only use the corner of the blade. And then here I'm actually freehanding the rest of the cut, because this particular haircut, this client wants to save as much hair as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and freehand and try to fade this in as much as possible. Now, this particular step is more of an advanced type thing, but you can practice it. Given the opportunities that you do get to practice it or whatever, I would recommend that you try to practice it, because sometimes you will end up in situations where you won't have guards. You'll just have the clipper and a comb or whatever the case may be. So, but the more advanced you get and the more you understand how your clippers work, you'll be able to do things like this, and it'll turn out better than using any guards or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to go ahead and pick out some areas that I see, some dark areas or whatnot that I see at the moment, and I'm just going to clean it up and make the fade look a whole lot better. And in these particular situations, you definitely need to take your time. Don't try to rush, because you can easily mess something up and then it turns into a whole different haircut. So be mindful in these particular areas or the things that you're trying, because it could either make or break the haircut. But you have to know when and how to use these particular techniques so that you could get to the goal that you're actually looking for. So now that I'm done with the back, I'm gonna move to the side. In this particular thing, I wanted y'all to see that I could actually start the first bald line out with the clipper closed, okay? So in this taper area or temp fade area, what I'm doing is the same process that I follow in the back. That's the same thing I'm going to follow on the sides. I'm going to fade the temple area, and also I'm going to fade the beard as well. And it's the same exact process. Nothing changes. Okay. And the reason why I follow the same steps is so that I know where I am in the haircut, and as well as I'm trying to save as much time as possible. When I do these particular haircuts with the haircut and the beard, I do have my time set out for like 45 minutes to an hour, but sometimes I try to see if I can move a little faster. And since I know my process and my processor hasn't failed me or anything like that, I try to pick up my time so that I could either try to get more clients in a shorter amount of time, or I can do more services for the client as well. So when you have these processes in place and you actually get the reps in, you'll start to see that you're getting better as well and faster. And then you can open up more opportunities to provide more services to where you can charge more as well. So be mindful that you may not have an hour for a client. You may only have 30 minutes, or a walk-in might come in and your next client is coming in within the next 30 or 45 minutes. You can actually squeeze somebody in, get them in and out without having to interrupt the time that you have for your next client. And those things are keys whenever you are working in the shop. And you can make more opportunities to make more money. So like I said, I'm just following the same processes that that I did in the back. I'm not doing anything different. And also I do go back and, do more detailed work or whatever. I may go over certain spots 2 or 3 times. And even in that, I have to know when the fade is actually done. Because if I keep trying to perfect it, I could cause the haircut to go into a different direction, or I can end up adding more time that was unnecessary. So I'm just making sure that I'm following my process, and then I'm cutting whatever needs to be cut. And in this particular situation here, I did use my 2-guard. And instead of doing the freehand, I will go back and do freehand as well. But after I used my 1-guard, close and open, I did go back with the 2-guard, and I just scooped my hand out so that I wouldn't cut too much into the side. And here I'm using my 1-guard, and I'm just trying to clean up those lines that I see, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting the fade as best as I can. Okay. So now I'm going to freehand a little bit, just so I can make sure that the transition is good. So even in this freehand situation, I am moving with caution, and I am moving with purpose. I see what needs to be cut. I know how my clippers work, how to manipulate them so that I can cut whatever that needs to be cut. That's the important thing of being a barber. You need to know how your tools work so that you can accomplish the goal that's needed to be accomplished. Okay. Don't shy away from the advanced stuff. Try the stuff out, because one day you will end up in a situation where your guards are going to be lost. You don't know where your guard is, and you're going to have to manipulate your clippers in certain ways to accomplish certain things. So just keep that in mind. Always try to challenge yourself during these haircuts. So on this particular side, I'm going to do the same process that I did at the back and on the other side. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you guys is I'm standing in one spot. I'm not moving around. I'm not walking around the client from one side to the other side. I'm actually like using my chair as a tool as well. A lot of the times I see a lot of barbers hunched over the client. What a lot of people don't realize is all you have to do is pump the chair up and spin the chair around. The client is only in the chair for a short amount of time. You are standing on your feet. Depending on how many clients you get or have, you could be standing all day. So the best thing for you to do is to learn ergonomics. Ergonomics is basically how you position your body, how you stand, how your posture is. That's pretty much what ergonomics is. You need to focus on those things, keep your body upright, keeping your chin parallel to the floor, and use your eyes. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be hunched over. You don't want to be bending your neck, and you don't want to be standing in a way that's uncomfortable for you whenever you're working and standing up all day, because later on down the line, you may have back problems, knee problems, neck problems, back problems. You may have all kind of things that will happen to you because you didn't use proper ergonomics, and that's very important as far as being a barber. Wearing the proper shoes, comfortable clothes, and all of that kind of thing goes into play of you being a barber, because a lot of people also don't know that being a barber is very strenuous on your body, because you're having to use your arms and your legs. You know what I'm saying? People think that just because you're a barber, you're not going to be tired at the end of the day, but you will. Shoulders, you know what I'm saying, and your back, feet, you know what I mean, hurting from whatever you did for the day. But you need to make sure that you guys are taking care of yourselves. And the reason why I wanted to point that out is because I wanted to show you guys that I am standing in one spot. I'm not using a lot of my shoulders. Mainly I'm using my wrist. You know what I mean? So make sure you guys try to practice using better ergonomics. So now that I'm kind of like done with the fading part, I'm going to clean up in certain areas to prepare myself for the lineup, okay? So the reason why I'm doing this cleanup work is so that I can, either make my transitions look better or to set myself up for my lineup. I try not to like get stuck or work on too many areas for too long, because before I know it, I'll do something that should take like 30 seconds for me to do, and then next thing I know, 5 minutes don't went by. You know what I mean? So you have to know when basically to let it go. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't, you'll be doing things that really don't even make no sense, or you could actually mess up and then having to clean it up, and that could be a whole nother issue. So what I'm doing here is making sure that I'm cleaning up certain areas so that I can set myself up for the lineup, okay? All right, so now I'm going to be prepping for the lineup. So with this particular part, I'm going to be using some hot lather or warm lather, and I'm going to place it on the areas that I'm going to be lining up. And the reason why I do this is so that the area is clean. I can exfoliate the skin, clean the skin, and it also takes all of the oils and debris that is on the skin off of the skin, so that whenever I do line it up, for some clients it does leave an ash mark, and for some others, because of them having oily skin, I didn't take enough oil off, but it still gives that sharp effect that I'm actually looking for. So I actually use this to exfoliate the skin and clean the skin. I actually do kind of agitate the shaving cream in certain areas so that it actually furthers help me to clean the skin, and then I apply the hot towel. Now this is a steaming hot towel, so one thing you need to make sure that you're doing before you apply it to the client is checking the towel if it's too hot. And how you do that is touching your wrist with the towel, because your wrist is somewhat sensitive. So if the towel is too hot for your wrist, 9 times out of 10 it's too hot for the client's face or the areas that you're trying to apply it to. And the reason why I use the hot towel is because it further helps to break up the dirt from the client's skin, and it also helps me to wipe the shaving cream off, basically. So that's pretty much the hot towel process that I use. And then after that, I go and add some type of holding spray or spritz, so that whenever I comb the hair stays in place. And I also dry the areas that I actually apply the spritz on, so that when it dries and when I apply the trimmers, it actually leaves the ash mark that I'm looking for. The ash mark basically gives it the effect of a sharper haircut or whatnot, but I do go back behind the trimmer with the razor to give it an even sharper image. So these are certain things that you can do to elevate your haircut. I know that shampooing the client's hair as well before the haircut can eliminate this particular process if you want to shampoo the client's hair to give that effect as well. But since I don't offer those services as of yet, I do the hot towel method whenever I'm lining the client up. Whenever I'm done with the hot towel, I will comb the hair back in place so that I can see if I missed anything whenever I was fading, and so that before I actually apply the spritz or the holder spray, it actually holds the hair in place. But sometimes you will have to go back and do some cleanup work whenever you manipulate the hair or move it around to make sure that you cut what is needed to be cut so that you can fulfill the client's desired haircut. All right, this is a teachable moment right here. So what had happened was I was spraying the product on the client and the nozzle part was like clogged and the product was coming out in all directions. It was crazy. And I happened to get it in areas that I didn't desire to. So this is a lesson for you guys to eliminate that from happening. You can actually like spray the product on a neck strip or a cotton swab, something like that, and place it on the areas so that you could further protect your client. Now, me and my client was able to laugh about it or whatever the case may be, thank God. But at the same time, you have to be concerned with the client's safety. So it is best to spray the product on a neck strip or on a cotton swab or cotton something, whatever you have, to applicate it to the areas that you actually want to have the product in. So whenever you're doing these lineups, you need to make sure whenever you get ready to cut the hair, you need to comb the hair in place first. Then cut it with the trimmer. Comb the hair again to make sure that the line that you create with the trimmer, that no hair falls over it, okay? I've seen sometimes where barbers only cut a particular area one time and then they move on to the next area, and then when the client goes home and like wash their hair or put a hat on or something like that, the hair will fall back over the lineup like the client never even got a line. So you need to make sure that you're thinking about these things whenever you're doing lineups, because you're trying to give the client whatever they want, and then you also want them to come back. So you need to do it to the best of your ability, and doing it the way that I just said also will help you to know like what you're supposed to cut, when you're supposed to cut it, or whatever the case may be, and clients will appreciate that. And then also another thing, making sure that your trimmers are set to the point where they don't irritate the client's skin. I know some clients have more sensitive skin than others. But you need to make sure that your trimmers are set in a way that you're not causing any welts or abrasions to the client's skin, or making sure that your clippers or trimmers aren't too hot, because that could actually burn the client and cause them to have these little scab wounds around the areas where you cut. So you need to be mindful of that. Okay, so make sure that your trimmers are set, and make sure that you're constantly combing the hair and just being as precise as possible. And being aware that your clients have sensitive skin. Some clients, you'll give them a lineup and it looks perfect in the shop, but then when they go home and whatever, they'll come back to you like, hey man, you kind of, cut me here or whatever. You just have to be careful. So you have to remember these things and study your clients as well, so that you'll know how to provide a great service to them, because you don't want your clients or potential clients to be harmed in any kind of way or anything like that. So you have to be careful in certain areas, especially under the neck. Now the neck is the most sensitive part, you know what I mean? So you have to make sure that the clippers aren't biting the client or causing the client to bleed or anything like that. You just have to be careful with your trimmers or whatever, and make sure that they're set to the point where it is comfortable. And the best thing to do before using the clippers or trimmers on anybody is to test them out on yourself first. I normally don't use clippers or trimmers on anybody unless I use them on myself first. Of course, I do clean them and make sure that they're maintained or whatever the case may be, but I try to make sure that the client is always comfortable when I'm cutting their hair or whatever. So you need to make sure that you're doing the same thing, because that can determine if that client comes back or if they don't. So make sure you keep that in mind. Now, another important thing is you want to be as symmetrical as possible. So that means whatever you do to one side, or whatever the one side looks like, you need to try to mimic it on the other side. That is important. As a barber, you're trying to make the client's head look as symmetrical as possible, especially the haircut. You don't want crooked lineups or anything like that, or one side higher than the other. You're trying to prevent those things to make the client head look as even as possible, even when it's not. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to what you did on one side and trying to mirror that on the other side. That is very important. So for the rest of this haircut, I'm just gonna let you guys watch. I will do a more in-depth lineup tutorial that will be coming soon, but for right now I'm just gonna let you guys watch and view some of the techniques that I actually used during the rest of the haircut, so you guys just stay tuned. for the razor, I highly recommend that you guys learn how to use a razor. So in this particular technique that I'm actually using, the hand that has the razor, I'm pulling it back toward me, and then the hand that is on the client's skin, I'm pulling it in the opposite direction. I'm pulling the skin so that the razor can glide, and so that it is easy for the razor to cut the areas that I'm actually trying to cut. If you pull too hard, you can nick the client, and if you don't pull enough, you can also nick the client. You need to make sure that you guys are practicing this particular technique, because it's easy to nick a client if you're not careful. So the thing that I recommend that you guys do to practice with the straight razor is using a balloon. Put some shaving cream on the balloon and using a technique that I just explained on the balloon. And if you practice it enough, you can try it on the client whenever you're comfortable to do that. But you guys also need to make sure that you are practicing these techniques, not just waiting until you get to the shop or the opportunity comes for you to do it. But you know what I'm saying, get you a mannequin, practice on the mannequin, or get the balloon and practice taking the shaving cream off of the balloon. You know what I mean? So there's really no excuse for you guys not to be able to try these techniques. There are plenty of opportunities for you guys to practice with these particular techniques. You don't have to wait until a client actually comes in. You can practice on a mannequin, or you can even practice on yourself on some techniques or whatnot. So for me, what I did was I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, learned the technique in my mind, and then I just went and practiced them. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm still learning, but I've become more advanced because I've taken the time out to learn those techniques and practice those techniques any opportunity that I got. And then I didn't shy away from anything, even though I was scared to do certain things. I ain't even gonna front. I was scared to use the razor, but I had to get over that fear. And to be honest with you, a lot of barbers don't use razors, and that is one particular quality that some people are looking for in a barber that actually uses the razor, because they believe that when a barber uses the razor, their lineups last a lot longer, which it actually does, and it makes the haircut look sharp. So you guys need to take advantage of that so that you guys can be more advanced, and it can give you opportunities to be a better barber. Not just to make more money, but for you to be a better barber. So now that we done with all that, we about to use the sponge And then what I do with the sponge, instead of twisting the hair, or well, really it's not even a sponge, it's a racket. I actually wet the hair, and then I put some kind of curling conditioner and place it on the hair or whatever, you know, rub it in or whatnot. And then I actually grab the racket and you know, kind of manipulate the hair or twist the hair or whatever with the racket. It does the same thing as the sponge. Okay, now, so with the racket is easier to clean. And with that being said, I'm less likely to pass on any type of hair conditions or scalp conditions from client to client, because the racket is actually easier to clean. With these sponges, the reason why I don't use sponges anymore is because it's hard to get those jokers clean. And then sometimes you don't know what people do to their hair, or whatever the case may be. And then I also noticed that the sponge actually like pulls the hair to the point where the hair gets stuck into the sponge or whatnot. So when I noticed that, I found a racket. It looks like a tennis racket, but it's actually it does the same thing as the sponge, which is twist the hair. So I started using it. But with this particular racket, it's easier to clean, and it's easier to, you know what I'm saying, twist the hair with, or whatever the case may be. So that's why I use it. So now I'm just, you know, cleaning up certain areas after the sponge to make sure that the client gets the desired look that he's looking for. And that's pretty much it. Pretty much the cut right now. I'm just doing finishing touches and stuff like that before I show the client. But I just wanted to tell y'all, I appreciate y'all, all the subscribers that I have. At the moment, it's 413. The goal is to get to 500 subscribers. But I appreciate y'all for, you know, taking the time out to subscribe and view the content and whatnot. If y'all have any suggestions on how to make the channel better, what y'all would like to see, let me know. But overall, I will be having more content on the way. I got the new camera, so the quality is getting better. I have set up at the house where I can do voiceovers or whatever. And the reason why I wasn't doing voiceovers before was because I didn't have the equipment and I didn't know how to use it. So now that I'm familiar with the equipment and I know how to use it, I'm gonna try to do more voiceovers. But here's the finished product. Let me know how y'all like it. And if you're looking for more content or have any questions or concerns, you know what I'm saying, you can always hit me in the comment section. But y'all take it easy.